moon hung low and heavy in the midnight sky, casting an eerie silver glow over the small, isolated village of Raven Hollow. Nestled deep within the ancient forest, the village seemed forgotten by time, its wooden houses weathered by countless storms, and its streets swallowed by creeping fog. In the heart of the village stood the old manor of the Blackthorn family, a once mighty lineage now reduced to shadows and whispers. The patriarch, Elias Blackthorn, was a man as stern and unforgiving as the gnarled trees surrounding his home. Tonight, the heavy silence was shattered only by the soft patter of rain and the occasional hoot of a distant owl. Inside the manor, in the dimly lit parlor, sat Elias and his wife, Isolde. Their faces were drawn with worry, the weight of unspoken fears pressing heavily between them. By the hearth, a sleek black cat named Nyx curled on a faded rug, its emerald eyes glinting with a strange intelligence. Outside, the wind howled, rattling the ancient window panes. Suddenly, a sharp scratching sound echoed from the back door, a slow, deliberate tapping like knuckles against wood. Elias's gaze hardened as he rose, stepping cautiously toward the noise. Isolde clutched her shawl tighter, her breath hitching. "Who's there?" Elias called, his voice low and steady. No answer, only the tapping continued, a rhythmic, insistent beat. Then, a whisper, soft but chilling, "Isolde. Isolde. I have come home." Elias's hand tightened on the door latch. Outside, shrouded in the storm's shadows, stood a figure, pale, gaunt, eyes hollow but burning with an unnatural crimson light. It was Lyra, their eldest daughter, long thought dead after a terrible winter many years ago. Her thin, blood-streaked fingers rapped against the door frame, the wood creaking beneath the pressure. Her torn white dress fluttered in the gusts, stained with dirt and old bruises. At her side, a small child clung to her skirts, a boy with eyes as red as hers, watching silently. Isolde gasped, stepping forward. "Lyra. Is it really you?" But Elias's face twisted into a grimace. "No," he said harshly. "You are not my daughter. You are a spirit, a curse upon this house." Nyx hissed, leaping between Elias and the door, claws bared. The cat's fur bristled like a storm about to break. "Open the door, father," Lyra pleaded, voice echoing with sorrow and fury. "Let me come in. I have warnings, and a debt to repay." Elias hesitated. Memories of past horrors flashed behind his eyes, the nights filled with screams, the whispers of dark magic, the tragic fall of his family. Opening the door could mean unleashing a nightmare. Suddenly, the child tugged at Lyra's sleeve. "Mother," he whispered, voice trembling. "Please don't be angry." But Lyra only smiled, a cruel, broken smile. "They will pay. All of them." A fierce wind swept through the village, extinguishing the candles and plunging the room into darkness. The tapping stopped. Silence fell heavy and suffocating. Then, from the depths of the manor, a faint moan began to rise, as if the house itself was awakening to a long-forgotten pain. Isolde clutched Elias's arm, tears shining in her eyes. "What have we done?" she whispered. Elias's jaw clenched. "We face what we must. For the Blackthorn name. For the future. And for the dead." Outside, NYX's eyes glowed brighter, reflecting the blood-red gaze of the ghostly child. The shadows in Raven Hollow were stirring and the darkness was far from over. The heavy silence that fell over the Blackthorn Manor after Lyra's chilling visit seemed to seep into every corner of the ancient house. Outside, the storm raged with growing fury, lightning flashing across the sky like angry eyes watching the cursed estate. Elias paced the grand hallway, his footsteps echoing against cracked stone walls etched with faded family crests and worn tapestries. Each step seemed heavier than the last, burdened by guilt and fear. Isolde followed quietly, clutching a locket that had belonged to their daughter. Inside, a faded portrait of Lyra smiled warmly, a haunting contrast to the spectral figure that had just appeared. Suddenly, from the far end of the corridor, a faint whisper curled through the air. Soft and sibilant, it was like the house itself was speaking, uttering secrets long buried. "Elias? Isolde?" The voice breathed. Elias stopped, heart pounding. "Who's there?" he demanded, voice cracking. No answer, only the whisper returned, clearer this time. "The debt remains. The blood must be repaid." A shiver ran down Isolde's spine. It's her. Lyra's spirit. Elias clenched his fists. "We must find the truth. Whatever darkness lingers in this house, we face it now." The storm outside intensified, rain pelting the windows like a furious tide. The manor groaned, the ancient wood creaking as if alive. Isolde suddenly pointed toward the grand staircase, where a shadow flickered and vanished. "Did you see that?" Before Elias could respond, a hidden door in the wall slowly creaked open, revealing a narrow, winding staircase descending into darkness. "It's been sealed for decades," Elias murmured. "No one has dared to enter since." But now, the secret beckoned. With a torch in hand, Elias led the way down, Isolde close behind. The air grew colder, thick with the scent of damp earth and forgotten memories. At the bottom, they found a small chamber, walls lined with ancient symbols, faded bloodstains marking the floor. In the center lay a dusty leather-bound journal, its pages brittle but surprisingly intact. Isolde picked it up, fingers trembling. It's Lyra's. Her diary. Opening it, they uncovered a tale of forbidden love, betrayal, and a curse placed upon the Blackthorn bloodline. Lyra wrote of a cruel stepmother's jealousy, dark rituals performed in secret, and a mysterious figure known only as the Veiled One who had promised vengeance. The Veiled One. Elias whispered, eyes narrowing. Could this be the source of our torment? Suddenly, the torch flickered wildly, casting monstrous shadows on the walls. A cold gust blew through the chamber, extinguishing the flame. In the pitch black, a soft lullaby began to echo, haunting, sorrowful, and unmistakably the voice of a child. Isolde gasped, clutching Elias's arm. "It's the boy. Lyra's son." From the shadows emerged a faint glow, two small eyes burning with an otherworldly light. The boy's ghostly form drifted forward, whispering words that chilled their souls. "They took my mother. They took my life. They will pay in blood." Elias steadied his breath. "We will find justice, little one. But we must be strong. This curse runs deeper than we imagined." As the spectral boy faded, the walls seemed to pulse with an unseen energy, and the whispering grew louder, a chorus of restless spirits, bound by pain and rage. Outside, the storm began to calm, but inside the manor, the true battle for redemption and revenge was only just beginning. As dawn crept slowly over Raven Hollow, the manor stood shrouded in an unnatural silence, the kind that suffocates even the faintest whisper of hope. Elias Blackthorn and Isolde sat by the cold hearth, the weight of the diary's revelations pressing heavily upon them. Every page seemed soaked in shadows, painting a dark portrait of a curse that had festered for generations. Lyra's diary spoke not only of jealousy and betrayal but of an ancient pact once sealed by their ancestors in desperation, binding the family's fate to a mysterious figure known only as the Veiled. 1. This entity, cloaked perpetually in shadow and masked beneath layers of dark silk, had granted power in exchange for a terrible price. The Blackthorn bloodline would be marked, forever haunted by the wrath of vengeful spirits. Isolde's fingers trembled as she traced the words aloud. The Veiled One demands sacrifice, the blood of the innocent to quench an unending thirst. Betrayal will be met with death, and redemption is but a fading dream. Elias clenched his jaw. This explains everything. The sickness, the deaths, the apparitions. We have been living under a curse, not just a haunting. Suddenly, the manor's heavy front door creaked open with a groan that echoed through the halls. Elias and Isolde exchanged wary glances before rising cautiously. At the doorstep stood a figure clad in a long, dark cloak, a veil obscuring their face, unmistakably the Veiled One. "You seek answers," the voice was soft but commanding, like the rustle of dead leaves. "But answers come at a cost." Elias stepped forward, his voice steady. "Why did you curse our family? What do you want?" The Veiled One lifted a pale hand, revealing a small, twisted amulet pulsing with dark energy. "Long ago, your ancestors wronged me, an oath broken, a debt unpaid. To reclaim balance, I bound your bloodline with this curse. But there is a way to end it. A ritual that demands great sacrifice." Isolde's eyes widened. "What sacrifice? We've already lost so much." The Veiled One's laugh was cold. "Sacrifice of the past, sacrifice of the present, sacrifice of the future. The bloodline must be cleansed through fire and tears. Elias's heart thundered. Tell us how. The figure extended a gloved hand, revealing a crimson-stained parchment inscribed with symbols that writhed like living things. To lift the curse, you must reunite 3 relics: the Heartstone, the Moon's Tear, and the Silent Bell. Each is guarded by shadows of your past and hidden beyond Raven Hollow's borders. Isolde swallowed hard. Where do we find them? The Veiled One's eyes gleamed beneath the veil. In places where light fears to tread. You will need allies. And you will face enemies you never imagined. Before they could respond, a sudden gust extinguished the candles, plunging the room into darkness. When the light returned, the Veiled One had vanished, leaving only the echo of their words and the cold weight of the curse's truth. Elias looked down at the diary, then at Isolde. We must prepare. This is no longer just about surviving, it's about fighting for our souls. Isolde nodded, determination igniting in her eyes. For Lyra. For our family. Meanwhile, outside the manor, unseen eyes watched from the shadows. Figures cloaked in secrecy whispered warnings, their loyalties uncertain. Among them was Mara, a mysterious woman with eyes like storm clouds and a past intertwined with the Blackthorn curse. Once a healer in the village, she had turned away after witnessing the manor's horrors but now sensed the approaching storm. She murmured to herself, the Veiled One moves again. And the time has come to decide where I stand. Back inside, NYX, the black cat, prowled the hallways, its emerald gaze piercing the darkness. As if sensing the rising peril, it let out a low growl, a warning that the shadows of Raven Hollow were awakening, and the Blackthorn family's fate was poised on a knife's edge. The first rays of sunlight filtered weakly through the heavy curtains of the Blackthorn Manor, but the house remained steeped in shadow and dread. Elias and Isolde awoke with a renewed, grim resolve. The diary and the Veiled One's cryptic message left no room for delay. The fate of their family rested on the impossible quest for the 3 relics. Their preparations began immediately. Elias called upon the few loyal villagers who had not fled in fear. Among them was a rugged woodsman named Garrick, whose knowledge of the surrounding forests was unmatched. Though skeptical of curses and spirits, Garrick's fierce loyalty to the village and the Blackthorn name made him an indispensable ally. Isolde reached out to Mara, the enigmatic woman who had distanced herself from Raven Hollow years ago. With her deep understanding of herbs, healing, and ancient lore, Mara was the key to navigating the unknown dangers they were about to face. The 4 gathered in the manor's great hall, maps and ancient texts spread before them, trying to locate the resting places of the Heartstone, Moon's Tear, and Silent Bell. Garrick frowned, tracing a route with his calloused finger. The Heartstone lies deep within the Forsaken Gorge, a place where no one dares tread. Dark creatures are said to dwell there, twisted by the curse. Mara nodded gravely. The Moon's Tear is hidden beneath the Weeping Falls, guarded by spirits who mourn for lost souls. Only those pure of heart may approach. Isolde's voice was steady but tense. And the Silent Bell. Elias exhaled slowly. Legends say it rests in the hollow crypt, an ancient burial site for the Blackthorn ancestors, sealed by powerful wards. Breaking in will not be easy. As they spoke, the manor trembled faintly, as though warning them of dangers closer than they realized. That night, as a restless wind whispered through the gnarled trees, Isolde was awakened by a soft tapping at her window. She peered through the rain-streaked glass and saw Nyx, the black cat, staring intently into the darkness. Suddenly, a faint glow appeared in the garden, a spectral figure cloaked in shadow, beckoning her to follow. Compelled beyond reason, Isolde slipped from her bed and followed the apparition into the stormy night. The ghostly figure led her through winding paths and tangled brambles until they reached the edge of the village. There, in the moonlight, stood a towering oak, ancient and scarred. The apparition turned, revealing itself as Lyra, her eyes sorrowful yet fierce. "Mother," Lyra whispered, "you must be prepared. The Veiled One's reach extends far, and not all who seem allies are what they appear." Isolde's heart pounded. "What do you mean? Who can we trust?" Before Lyra could answer, a dark shape lunged from the shadows, a twisted, half-formed creature with glowing red eyes and jagged claws. Isolde screamed as it swiped, but Nyx sprang between them, claws flashing in the moonlight. The beast recoiled, hissing before vanishing into the night. Lyra's form flickered. "Beware the shadows among us. Not all who walk Raven Hollow are human." Isolde shivered but steeled herself. "We will face whatever comes. For my daughter. For our family." Back at the manor, Elias sensed the turmoil. He found Mara and Garrick sharpening weapons and preparing supplies. "We leave at first light," Elias said. "Our time is short. The curse tightens its grip with each passing day." Mara glanced toward the darkened windows. "And the Veiled One watches." The next morning, under a sky heavy with thunder clouds, the four set out, a motley band bound by desperation and hope. Their journey would take them through cursed forests, ancient ruins, and forgotten paths, places where the veil between the living and the dead grew thin. With every step, they felt the eyes of the past upon them, and the shadows whispered warnings that chilled their blood. As they crossed the village boundary, a scream tore through the air, raw and desperate. Turning, they saw smoke rising from the outskirts. Flames licked the night sky. Rushing back, they found homes burned, fields trampled, and villagers fleeing in terror. From the smoke emerged figures, villagers twisted into monstrous forms, their eyes voids of malice. The curse was no longer confined to the manor. It spread like wildfire. Elias raised his sword, voice booming, "Stand together. We fight not just for our family, but for Raven Hollow itself." Steel clashed, spells flared, and the battle for survival began. The sun was a pale disk behind thick, rolling clouds as Elias, Isolde, Mara, and Garrick regrouped after the brutal battle at the village edge. Their breath came heavy and ragged, their clothes torn and smeared with grime and blood. Around them, the smoldering remains of Raven Hollow's homes and fields told a story of devastation. The curse had broken free, no longer contained within the walls of the Blackthorn Manor. It now roamed freely, twisting villagers into monstrous shadows of their former selves. The haunting cries of the afflicted echoed through the smoky air, a mournful symphony of suffering and despair. Elias knelt beside a fallen villager, pressing a hand to the man's trembling forehead. This darkness, it spreads faster than we imagined. We must find the relics before the entire hollow is lost. Isolde wiped soot from her face and nodded. The longer we wait, the more souls are claimed. We need to move now. Mara studied the sky, her eyes sharp despite exhaustion. The storm will break soon. The Veiled One's influence grows stronger with every passing hour. It's as if the curse feeds on the fear and pain around us. Garrick adjusted his grip on his axe. Then we fight with fire and steel. We fight for every soul still free. Their plan was clear: retrieve the relics, perform the cleansing ritual, and break the curse. But none of them knew what horrors awaited on the path ahead. As they ventured deeper into the forest toward the Forsaken Gorge, the resting place of the Heartstone, the atmosphere thickened. The trees seemed to lean inward, their twisted branches clawing at the gray sky. Whispers floated on the wind, faint voices calling their names, tempting them to stray from the path. At dusk, they reached a narrow ravine shrouded in unnatural mist. The air was thick and cold, and every footstep echoed with an eerie hollow. Mara lit a lantern, the flickering light barely penetrating the gloom. This is the Forsaken Gorge. They say the shadows here have teeth. From the darkness, red eyes blinked in pairs, then dozens, emerging like malevolent stars from the abyss. Shape-shifting beasts with snarling jaws and clawed limbs surrounded the group. Elias drew his sword, the steel catching the lantern's glow. Stay together. We must reach the Heartstone. The battle was fierce. Garrick's axe cleaved through snarling beasts, Isolde's sharp arrows found gaps in their twisted hides, and Mara's whispered incantations conjured protective wards. Still, the beasts pressed in, relentless and fueled by the curse's dark power. During a brief lull, Elias spotted a faint glimmer deeper in the gorge, the Heartstone, nestled atop a craggy pedestal, pulsing with a warm crimson light. We must get it, he shouted. But as they advanced, the ground beneath them trembled, and a monstrous shadow rose, the guardian of the Heartstone, a colossal creature made of roots, stone, and shadow, its eyes blazing with fury. The fight for the relic had only just begun. The air in Forsaken Gorge thickened with tension as Elias and his companions faced the colossal guardian. Its form was a terrifying blend of living wood, jagged stone, and swirling shadows, moving with a slow, deliberate menace. Each of its steps caused the earth to tremble beneath their feet. Isolde's voice trembled, yet carried fierce determination. We can't back down now. That relic is the key. Mara began chanting softly, drawing ancient runes in the air that shimmered with ethereal light. This guardian is bound by the curse's magic. If we weaken its connection, we can break its hold. Garrick swung his axe at a root-like limb, sparks flying as steel met enchanted bark. The creature roared, a sound like grinding stones, and retaliated with sweeping strikes. Suddenly, a crack appeared on the heartstone's surface, a faint pulse of crimson light bursting forth. Elias charged, sword raised, striking the crystal. The ground shook violently. From the shaking earth, a hidden chamber revealed itself beneath the pedestal, an ancient crypt sealed by time. The guardian faltered, stepping back. Without hesitation, the group descended into the darkness below. Inside, the crypt walls were etched with murals depicting the Blackthorn family's ancient past alliances, betrayals, and the sealing of the Veiled One's curse. Among the images was a figure wearing a veil identical to the mysterious visitor from the manor. Isolde traced a hand along the mural, whispering, "This curse was not just punishment, it was a desperate pact made to save the family from a greater evil." At the crypt's heart lay an altar, upon which rested a small, glowing orb, the Heartstone's core, a source of power both terrible and sacred. But as Elias reached for it, the chamber shuddered. Shadows coalesced into a figure cloaked in darkness, its eyes burning with malevolent intelligence. "I am the Veiled One's shadow," it hissed. "You seek to undo fate, but fate demands its price." The party braced for battle, weapons drawn, spells ready. Suddenly, from behind the shadow, a flicker of light appeared. Mara's face was resolute as she stepped forward. "You forget I carry the blood of those who once bound you. I am their legacy and their bane." The shadow recoiled as Mara's voice grew stronger, the runes on her hands glowing fiercely. Elias lunged, sword piercing the shadow's form. It dissipated with a scream, leaving the Heartstone's core glowing warmly. Isolde carefully lifted the orb, feeling its power surge through her veins. But the victory was bittersweet. A distant, bone-chilling howl echoed through the crypt, a warning that the trials were only beginning. Back in Raven Hollow, Lucien watched from the shadows, his eyes gleaming with unreadable intent. "The Veiled One awakens," he murmured. "And so does the war for Raven Hollow's soul." The crypt's heavy stone door slammed shut behind Elias and his companions as the echo of the Veiled One's shadow faded into nothingness. The Heartstone pulsed softly in Isolde's hands, casting a warm glow that chased away the oppressive darkness. Yet the chill in the air warned that peace was far from reach. As they ascended back into the fading light of Forsaken Gorge, Mara's expression was grim. This was only the first relic. The Moon's Tear and the Silent Bell remain, and their guardians will be far less forgiving. Garrick adjusted his pack, eyes scanning the twisting path ahead. "We can't afford to rest. The curse grows stronger, and the village suffers." Before they could continue, a sudden rustling burst from the underbrush. From the shadows emerged a group of villagers, their faces gaunt and eyes hollow, victims of the curse's lingering grip, yet somehow resisting the darkness. Leading them was a young woman named Illyra, whose determination shone despite her pale complexion. "I heard of your quest," she said breathlessly. "I want to help." I know the forest and its secrets better than most. My family has suffered like yours. Isolde hesitated, then nodded. We need all the help we can get. With Illyra's guidance, the party navigated treacherous paths toward the Weeping Falls, where the moon's tear awaited. The falls were a haunting sight, water cascading over jagged rocks into a mist-filled pool, surrounded by twisted trees whose branches seemed to weep with sorrow. As they approached, a chorus of ethereal voices rose from the mist, the mournful wails of spirits bound to the falls, guardians of the moon's tear. Mara began an incantation, weaving protective wards as Elias and Garrick prepared for confrontation. Suddenly, the water roiled violently, and from its depths emerged a spectral figure, a woman draped in flowing robes, her eyes shimmering with centuries of grief. I am Seraphine, she declared, voice echoing like a distant bell. To claim the moon's tear, you must prove your hearts are pure. Only then will the spirits grant passage. Illyra stepped forward. We come seeking to end the curse, to free our people from darkness. Seraphine's gaze pierced each of them. Then face the trials of sorrow, confront your deepest regrets and fears. Only those who overcome may proceed. One by one, visions enveloped them. Isolde saw the moment she turned away from her dying mother. Elias relived the harsh decisions that fractured his family. Mara confronted the pain of betrayal by those she once trusted. Garrick faced the guilt of failing to protect his younger brother. Illyra's vision was the most harrowing: a village burning, families torn apart, and her own helplessness amidst the chaos. Through tears and anguish, they stood firm, supporting one another. As the trials ended, Seraphine smiled softly. You have shown strength and compassion. The moon's tear is yours. From the mist, she produced a luminous blue gem, cool and radiant. But as Isolde reached for it, the waters churned once more, and from the darkness rose a monstrous serpent, scales glistening like obsidian, eyes blazing with fury. The final trial is not yet over. The obsidian-scaled serpent surged from the depths of the Weeping Falls, its eyes burning with a hellish fire. The air crackled with tension as the monstrous creature towered over Elias, Isolde, Mara, Garrick, and Illyra. Water cascaded violently around them, drenching their clothes and chilling their bones. The roar of the falls mingled with the serpent's hiss, creating a deafening symphony of impending doom. Elias gripped his sword tightly, muscles coiled like a predator ready to strike. Stand firm. Protect Isolde and the moon's tear at all costs. Mara's hands glowed with a sapphire light as she began chanting an ancient spell of binding. Illyra nocked an arrow, her aim steady despite the swirling chaos. Garrick readied his axe, eyes burning with fierce determination. The serpent lunged, jaws snapping just inches from Elias's face. He dodged nimbly, slashing at the creature's thick hide. The blade bit deep, but the serpent barely flinched. Illyra released her arrow, which struck the serpent's eye, eliciting a terrible screech. But the beast retaliated by whipping its massive tail, sending Garrick crashing into a tree trunk. Mara's spell shimmered and expanded, weaving a net of glowing blue light that tangled around the serpent's coils, slowing its movements. but the creature's strength was immense, and it tore through the magical bonds with a furious roar. "Keep it distracted," Elias shouted. "We need to get closer to the gem." Isolde, clutching the moon's tear, stood back, watching the battle with tense anxiety. The gem pulsed in her hands, its light growing brighter with each passing moment. Suddenly, the serpent's gaze locked onto her. With terrifying speed, it lunged, but the black cat sprang between them, emitting a fierce hiss that echoed like a battle cry. The serpent recoiled momentarily, startled by NYX's unexpected courage. Seizing the moment, Elias charged forward, driving his sword deep into the serpent's heart. The beast let out a final, earth-shaking roar before collapsing into the misty waters, dissolving into shadows. Breathing heavily, the group regrouped. Isolde held the moon's tear aloft, its glow now steady and serene. "We did it," she whispered, relief washing over her. But their victory was short-lived. A distant howl shattered the calm, a signal from Lucien and his shadowy hunters, closing in on the Blackthorn family's secret. In the distance, Lucien watched silently from above, a mysterious smile on his lips. "Soon, Raven Hollow will belong to those who dare to claim its power," he said, his cold gaze directed toward the mountain where the three relics awaited. The heavy fog that blanketed the path back to Raven Hollow seemed to carry whispers, voices that chilled the soul and stirred fears long buried. Elias, Isolde, Mara, Garrick, and Illyra moved cautiously through the twisted trees, their minds weighed down not just by exhaustion, but by the knowledge that their journey was far from over. Though they had secured two relics, the Heartstone and the Moon's Tear, the Silent Bell, the final key to breaking the curse, awaited them in the depths of the hollow crypt. A place where light barely dared to enter, and secrets slept beneath layers of shadow and dust. As they neared the village's outskirts, a sudden rustle among the trees drew their attention. Emerging from the shadows was a figure clad in worn, dark robes, a stranger whose eyes glittered with sharp cunning. "Lucien. Going somewhere?" Lucien's voice was smooth, almost mocking. Elias stepped forward, hand on the hilt of his sword. "What do you want, Lucien?" "I want what you seek," Lucien said, a smile playing on his lips. "But the Veiled One's power is not so easily undone. And I've come to offer a partnership." Isolde narrowed her eyes. "Why should we trust you? You've haunted Raven Hollow for years, feeding on its darkness." Lucien's gaze softened, just for a moment. "Because, like you, I'm a prisoner of this curse. And I know its true origin, something far worse than you imagine." Mara exchanged a wary glance with Elias. "Speak quickly. We have no time for riddles." Lucien stepped closer, lowering his voice. "The Veiled One was once a guardian of this land, a protector twisted by betrayal and dark magic. The pact your ancestors made was desperate, but it found only a fragment of her true power. Her name is Selene," he continued. "And breaking the curse means facing her full wrath." Before anyone could respond, the ground beneath them trembled. From the fog, shadowy figures materialized. Lucien's hunters, spectral assassins bound to his will, their eyes glowing with cold intent. "Decide quickly," Lucien warned. "Join me, or be destroyed." The battle erupted instantly. Garrick and Illyra fought fiercely, blades and arrows cutting through the phantoms. Mara's spells wove shields and blasts of light. Elias locked swords with Lucien, their clash ringing through the mist. But amid the chaos, betrayal struck. From the shadows, Illyra's eyes flickered with a strange light. In a swift motion, she turned on the group, her voice cold. "I'm sorry. But I serve a higher purpose." Isolde's heart shattered as Illyra plunged a dagger into Garrick's side. Garrick gasped, staggering but still fighting. "What?" Elias shouted, barely parrying a strike from Lucien. Illyra's smile was bitter. "Because some curses can only be broken through sacrifice. Even if it means betraying those you call allies." Blood spilled, alliances fractured, and the fog thickened with sorrow and rage. The mist thickened as betrayal tore through the fragile alliance like a ravenous wolf through a flock of sheep. Illyra's sudden attack stunned Elias and Isolde to their core. Garrick staggered, clutching his bleeding side, his face pale but burning with defiance. The dagger's wound was deep, but his spirit was unbroken. "Illyra." "What?" Isolde's voice broke, eyes wide with disbelief and sorrow. Illyra's expression hardened. "There are powers beyond your understanding. Powers that demand sacrifices you're not willing to make." Lucien's laughter cut through the chaos like a blade. "She speaks the truth. The curse. The Veiled One. Selene. It's all tied to a force older and darker than this village dares to believe." Elias gritted his teeth, bloodied but unyielding. "If you wanted to help, you could have said so. Instead, you've made us fight your war." Mara knelt beside Garrick, pressing herbs to his wound, her hands glowing faintly with healing magic. "He won't last long if we don't act." Isolde turned to Illyra, desperation in her eyes. "Tell us everything. Help us break this curse before more blood is spilled." Illyra hesitated, shadows flickering behind her eyes. Slowly, she revealed the truth. Selene was once a guardian spirit of Raven Hollow, sworn to protect the land and its people. But centuries ago, she was betrayed by those she trusted, the Blackthorn ancestors among them. Their desperation led to a dark pact, binding Selene's power and twisting it into a curse. The Veiled One is her corrupted form, a manifestation of pain, vengeance, and sorrow. The relics you seek are fragments of her shattered soul. Lucien stepped closer, his eyes glinting with knowledge. To break the curse, you must reunite the relics and perform the Ritual of Shadows, an ancient rite that will either free Selene or unleash her wrath upon the world. "But beware," Illyra warned, the ritual requires a sacrifice, a willing soul to balance the scales. Without it, the curse will only deepen. Isolde swallowed hard, the weight of the choice pressing on her chest. Suddenly, a deafening roar echoed through the trees. The ground shook violently. From the shadows emerged a monstrous form, a dark wolf, its fur like living smoke and eyes burning with malice. It was Selene's cursed sentinel, bound to protect the final relic. The battle was fierce. Elias, weakened but unyielding, fought alongside Mara and Illyra, while Isolde tended to Garrick, who fought through the pain with fierce determination. The wolf lunged, fangs bared, but Illyra unleashed a spell of binding, chains of light wrapping around the beast, slowing its movements. With a final, desperate strike, Elias drove his sword into the wolf's heart, and the creature dissolved into shadows. The group was battered but victorious. As silence fell, Illyra approached the final path, the entrance to the hollow crypt, where the silent bell lay hidden. But the curse was far from broken. From the depths, a voice echoed, cold, echoing, and filled with ancient rage. You dare defy me? Your souls will be mine. The air within the hollow crypt was thick with ancient power, a suffocating blend of sorrow, rage, and forgotten promises. Elias, Isolde, Mara, Garrick, and Illyra stood before the massive stone door, carved with sigils that pulsed faintly with dark energy. The silent bell awaited them within the last relic, the key to undoing centuries of suffering. But it was guarded by Selene herself, the Veiled One, the corrupted guardian whose fury had consumed Raven Hollow for generations. As Elias reached out to touch the door, a whisper echoed through the chamber, only a soul willing to sacrifice everything may enter. Isolde swallowed her fear and stepped forward. We've come this far. We will do whatever it takes. With a deep breath, Elias pushed the door open. Inside, the chamber was vast and shadowy, lit only by the eerie glow of the silent bell, suspended midair above a pedestal carved from black obsidian. Suddenly, the room trembled. From the darkness, a figure emerged, tall, graceful, and terrifying, the Veiled One. Her face was hidden beneath layers of dark silk, but her eyes burned with a hellish fire, full of grief and vengeance. You dare trespass in my domain. Her voice was a chilling melody, echoing through the crypt like a death knell. Elias tightened his grip on his sword. We come to end your curse, Selene. To free Raven Hollow from your torment. The Veiled One laughed, a sound both beautiful and horrifying. Free. Foolish mortals. The curse is my vengeance and my penance. You cannot undo what was wrought in blood and betrayal. Isolde stepped beside Elias, holding the Heartstone and Moon's Tear. We have the relics. Together, they can purify your soul. Selene's gaze flickered with something unreadable, pain, perhaps regret. Then prove it. But be warned, the ritual demands a price greater than life itself. The battle began. Selene moved with supernatural grace, wielding shadows like weapons. Her attacks were swift, her power overwhelming. Elias and Garrick fought desperately, deflecting blows and protecting their companions. Mara chanted an incantation, weaving protective wards and calling upon ancient forces. Illyra unleashed arrows infused with light, each shot chipping away at Seleni's defenses. But the Veiled One's strength was immense, fueled by centuries of rage. As the fight reached its peak, Isolde stepped forward, raising the relics. Their combined light bathed the chamber, illuminating Seleni's hidden wounds, scars of betrayal and sorrow. Tears shimmered beneath her veil. I was once guardian, betrayed by those I loved, bound by a curse I did not choose. Isolde's voice was steady. We are here to end this, to heal the wounds of the past. Seleni's form began to waver, her shadowy exterior fracturing. But the ritual required one final act, a sacrifice. Elias looked at Isolde, understanding dawning. You must be the sacrifice. No, Isolde whispered. We face this together. Suddenly, Illyra stepped forward, her eyes resolute. I have betrayed you all. I must make amends. Before anyone could react, she placed her hand on the silent bell. A brilliant light erupted, enveloping the chamber. Seleni's veil lifted, revealing a face of tragic beauty, not a monster, but a wounded soul yearning for peace. With a final, mournful sigh, Selene vanished, the curse dissolving like mist in the morning sun. The relics dimmed, their power spent. Illyra's body collapsed, her sacrifice complete. The chamber fell silent. Elias and Isolde knelt beside her, tears mingling with rain that had begun to seep through the cracks in the crypt ceiling. Outside, Raven Hollow stirred, the oppressive darkness lifting at last. The curse was broken. But the scars of the past would remain, a reminder of sacrifice, betrayal, and the enduring power of hope. The dawn broke over Raven Hollow, bathing the village in a gentle golden light. The oppressive curse that had plagued the land for generations had finally lifted, but peace was fragile and fleeting. Elias, Isolde, Mara, and Garrick stood amid the ruins of the village, the weight of Illyra's sacrifice heavy on their hearts. The silent bell's power had vanished, but its echo lingered, a reminder that victory came at a great cost. The villagers began to emerge from hiding, their faces pale but hopeful. Whispers of freedom spread like wildfire, but so did questions: what had truly happened beneath the hollow crypt? And was the threat truly gone? Suddenly, Mara's gaze darkened. There are forces at work beyond Selene's curse. Something older, darker, waiting in the shadows. A chilling wind swept through the village, carrying with it a faint, sinister laughter. At the edge of the forest, a figure cloaked in midnight approached, a woman with eyes like frozen stars and a smile that promised ruin. She was known only as Seraphina, the Shadow Weaver, a sorceress whose allegiance remained a mystery. She watched the village with interest, her mind weaving plans that could unravel all the sacrifices made. Meanwhile, Lucien's absence was felt keenly. His motives had remained unclear, ally or adversary, his role in the unfolding saga was far from over. Isolde turned to Elias, determination in her eyes. This is not the end. Raven Hollow needs guardians now more than ever. Elias nodded, his sword resting at his side. We will protect our home no matter what darkness rises. As the sun climbed higher, the first tendrils of a new storm gathered on the horizon, a storm that would test their strength, their bonds, and their very souls. The skies above Raven Hollow were painted with hues of dawn, soft pinks melting into golden light. The village, once suffocated by shadows and despair, now stirred with cautious hope. Yet the scars of the past still whispered in the winds, reminding all that redemption was not simply granted, it was earned. Elias, Isolde, Mara, and Garrick stood upon the hill overlooking the village, their faces etched with weariness and resolve. The silent bell had rung its final toll, its power spent in the ritual that freed Selene from her torment. Illyra's sacrifice lingered in their hearts, a poignant symbol of the cost of salvation. The village elders gathered, voices mingling in prayers of gratitude and remembrance. Children ran through the streets, laughter breaking the heavy silence that had once blanketed the hollow. The Blackthorn Manor, once a seat of dread, was now a beacon for renewal, its walls slowly mending, vines retreating as life returned. Yet, peace was fragile. From the shadows beyond the forest, Seraphina, the shadow weaver, watched silently. Her eyes gleamed with a cold fire, a smile playing on her lips. The veil has lifted, she whispered, but the darkness endures. Within the village, Lucien returned, his expression unreadable. He approached Elias and Isolde, bearing news that chilled their newfound hope. There are whispers of a gathering storm, Lucien said. A resurgence of dark forces that seek to claim Raven Hollow's power. Our fight may be over, but the war has only just begun. Elias nodded grimly. Then we stand ready. In the weeks that followed, the village began to rebuild not just homes and fields, but bonds shattered by fear and betrayal. Mara's healing art soothed wounds seen and unseen. Garrick trained the villagers in defense, preparing for whatever darkness might come. Isolde and Elias worked tirelessly, their leadership a beacon of strength. Amid the rebuilding, a mysterious artifact was uncovered beneath the ruins of the manor, a small, ancient talisman inscribed with runes unfamiliar even to Mara. It pulsed faintly with an eerie light, hinting at secrets yet untold. As night fell, a gathering of shadows moved beyond the village, dark figures cloaked in secrecy, their intentions unknown but undoubtedly sinister. The story of Raven Hollow closed one chapter, but opened another, a tale of hope entwined with darkness, sacrifice met with courage, and a reminder that even in the deepest shadows, the dawn will always come. Title: Raven Hollow, The Curse of the Veiled One, a tale of sacrifice and redemption. Description: In the shadowed village of Raven Hollow, a terrible curse binds its fate, the wrath of the Veiled One, a guardian spirit twisted by betrayal and dark magic. Follow Elias, Isolde, Mara, Garrick, and the enigmatic Illyra as they race against time to retrieve ancient relics, face deadly trials, and confront the terrifying force that holds their home in darkness. Betrayal, sacrifice, and unbreakable bonds lead them through battles against monstrous guardians, spectral hunters, and the haunted past of a family legacy. In a desperate bid to end centuries of suffering, they must unlock secrets buried beneath the hollow crypt and perform a ritual that demands the ultimate price. Will they succeed in breaking the curse, or will the shadows consume them all? Raven Hollow, The Curse of the Veiled One is a gripping fantasy horror saga of love, vengeance, and the enduring power of hope, where every choice carries weight and every soul is tested,